Once upon a time in a beautiful kingdom, there lived a kind and humble water carrier named Arion. He was loved by everyone in the village because of his cheerful nature and willingness to help others. Every day he carried water from the river to the homes of the people, always greeting them with a warm smile and a kind word. His happiness was contagious, and people admired his contentment. Despite his simple life, one day word of Arion's kindness and dedication reached the king, curious about this beloved water carrier. The king sent his minister to summon him to the palace. When Arion arrived, the king said, "I have heard of your good nature and hard work. From today you shall serve in my palace, bringing water for me and my guests." Overjoyed, Arion rushed home to tell his wife the good news. He put on his best clothes and returned to the palace, eager to begin his new job. As days passed, his cheerful spirit and storytelling skills made him a favorite among the king's guests. Even the king himself grew fond of Arion's presence, often calling him to share amusing tales and lighten his mood. However, not everyone was pleased with Arion's rising status. The minister, who had once been the king's most trusted companion, grew jealous. He could not bear to see a mere water carrier winning the king's favor. Determined to remove Arion from the palace, he devised a wicked plan. One evening, the minister visited Arion at his home and whispered, "Arion, I must tell you something important. The king has been complaining about the bad smell of your breath. He does not want to embarrass you, but he finds it unbearable." Arion's face fell with embarrassment. "Oh no, what should I do?" he asked worriedly. The minister pretended to be sympathetic and suggested to avoid offending the king. "Wear a mask over your mouth." Whenever you are in his presence, trusting the minister's advice, Arion followed his suggestion. The next day he entered the palace with a mask covering his face. The king was surprised, but did not comment. Days passed, and Arion continued wearing the mask, never once questioning the minister's words. After a while, the king grew curious and asked the minister, "Why is Arion always wearing a mask?" seizing the opportunity. The minister smirked and replied, "My lord, I asked Arion the same thing. He told me that he wears it because he finds your breath unpleasant." The king's face darkened with anger. He felt betrayed by someone he had grown so fond of. Without further thought, he ordered, "Call the executioner. Stand by the palace gate, and when you see a man leave carrying a bouquet of roses, cut off his head." Immediately the next day, Arion arrived as usual, wearing his mask and serving the guests with his usual grace. Pleased with his service, the king handed him a bouquet of roses as a reward. Arion bowed respectfully and left the king's chamber as he stepped out. The minister, curious about the gift, stopped him and asked, "Who gave you these roses?" The king, Arion, replied with a smile, "He wanted to reward me for my service." The minister, blinded by arrogance, snatched the bouquet from Arion's hands. "I deserve this more than you," he sneered before marching proudly toward the palace gates. The executioner, following the king's orders, saw the minister with the bouquet and swiftly carried out the punishment. The next morning, Arion returned to the palace as usual. The king, expecting never to see him again, was shocked. "Arion, you are alive!" he exclaimed. "Tell me, why do you always wear that mask in front of me?" Arion, still unaware of the deception, humbly replied, "My lord, the minister told me that you found my breath unpleasant, so I wore this mask to avoid disturbing you." The king's eyes widened in realization. "And what happened to the bouquet of roses I gave you yesterday?" "The minister took it from me, saying that he deserved it more than I did." Arion answered innocently. The king burst into laughter. "Indeed, he deserved those roses more than you did with that." The king removed Arion's mask and assured him, "You have always been honest and kind from today. You will be more than just a water carrier. You shall be my royal storyteller. Honesty, kindness, and patience always triumph over deceit and jealousy. Arian remained humble and truthful despite the minister's attempt to ruin him, and in the end, justice was served. This story teaches us that those who plot against others out of envy often fall into their traps. It also reminds us that good deeds and sincerity never go unnoticed. Fate has a way of rewarding those with a pure heart. No matter how difficult the situation, staying true to oneself will always lead to the right path.